now that I've got a mic. This is DJ Rachel on the mic. Jane Austen.
Kia ora, welcome to the Amateur Austenite. I'm Frances Duncan, author, Austenite life coach. My co-host is the fantastic beatboxer, Rachel Pilwer, DJ Rachel, book buyer, Austenite, and all-round nerd.
Hi.
Continuing our series of Austen adaptations, today we're discussing the 1972 miniseries, which I have watched and Rachel has not. So I'm going to tell her about it.
I've seen the first episode, which we did watch together. Frances will tell me the things they've missed.
I enjoyed this a lot more than I remembered enjoying it previously. And I'm not sure if that's because I haven't watched it in ages, or I've matured, or I'm on ADHD meds, so I have a longer attention span.
And maybe it's a mixture of all of those things.
Maybe it is. All up, I think the series is about 4 hours, which is about the same length as the 2009 miniseries. And it covers everything. But the first episode, they shoved so much seemed to happen. How are they going to stretch this out for the other episodes when everything's already happened?
I found the first episode so long. They were merging scenes. I found the casting for this one really interesting. Doran Godwin, who plays Emma, we originally thought she was the youngest person to play Emma based off some false information, but she was actually, I think, maybe the oldest at 28 when this miniseries came out.
So somebody lied on IMDb. She's the youngest of everyone that's played Emma. She's the closest to Emma's age. And then Rachel did some math and went, no.
But we do also then have the oldest Mr Knightley. John Carson was 45, which was a 17-year age gap. They do have the most accurate age gap between any Emma and Knightley couple so far. He looks like he's older than 45. I'm sorry, John Carson.
He's got greys, but still attractive. Doran Godwin kind of looks like Jane Austen around her eyes.
If she had played Jane Austen in like a biographic of her life, I could reasonably believe that this was visually accurate casting.
I think they'd need to do a little something with her nose, maybe.
And give her dark hair.
She definitely looks more like Jane Austen than the people that they've had play her in everything I've seen.
Sorry, Anne Hathaway.
Harriet is prettier.
Yes, I was so shook. Harriet is more beautiful than Emma. Someone finally did the casting right for Harriet.
Mr. Elton wasn't attractive. It looks like he's got a receding hairline. I don't think he actually does, but just the way that his hair was done.
I thought he wasn't the worst, but I think he may have been one of the creepier Elton.
Pretty accurate then.
Not as creepy as Alan Cummings in the Gwyneth Paltrow Emma, though. The actress who played Mrs. Goddard is Molly Sugden, who many people might know from Are You Being Served? She's such a comedic actress for me that her just coming in at the beginning as the school teacher just made me laugh so hard. She filmed Emma the same year Are You Being Served? She started fairly famous for the show, at least inside the UK.
It's kind of great that you recognised her, though, because I did not know any of the cast. I think the actress who played Emma and the one that played Harriet hadn't really done much and didn't really do much after. I think they were more stage actresses.
It did feel like a bit more of a staged play rather than a filmed version.
It helps with the sets being very staged on a soundstage. Mr. Martin looks nice and kind. Good. Mr. Woodhouse looks like Scrooge.
Of all the Mr. Woodhouses we've seen, he was the oldest. He does look like Scrooge. Don't they have him wearing like a nightcap at one point?
I think maybe they did.
Can we just talk in general about the clothes? Like the ruffled collars on like all the dresses.
They are fussy. The clothes are so much fussier.
Like Emma's wearing a hair cap in a lot of them. I ended up going into a deep dive on what the actual style of cap was called. The style of cap she was wearing is one that's either for older women or married women. So she was way too young to be wearing it. But then you also had Harriet wearing it at some point.
I think that was the costume department not understanding that not everybody wore caps.
In fairness to the costume department, they didn't have Google to look up what was accurate to the period.
But the cap's also very fussy. Also a lot of fur. Or have we got used to the idea of people not wearing caps because that's what we've been seeing? But there is the comment about Jane and Cassandra Austen that they took to wearing caps early, which indicates that women didn't wear caps when they were younger. It was only when they got married or they got older. There were some fun quotes. Emma refers to the potential of Harriet marrying Mr. Martin as a degradation, but the way that she says it
would be a degradation. And I feel like the way she says it is even more cutting. Hoity-toity. Like, it's very posh. And so it's kind of like her saying, like, he wouldn't be able to roll his R's like this.
He does not deserve her then. We need a man that's good with his tongue. Mrs. Elton says that she's an advocate for timidity in women, and Emma just goes, indeed. And Mrs. Elton goes, you don't meet with it very often. And Emma is doing so much by not saying anything because it's so clear she's going, you like timid women.
What are you, bitch?
About Mrs. Elton, Emma says there is a certain quality in her voice I find infuriating. Same. I literally had to turn it down every time Mrs. Elton was on screen. Her voice hurt.
Oh my gosh. Who was the actress? Fiona Walker.
She was a very good Mrs. Elton. It seemed like she was pursing her lips all the time, and the way that her nose was made it look like she was thinking herself superior to everybody. Frank says about Mrs. Elton at the ball, so long as she's first, she won't care who she dances with. And Emma tells him off. Emma's actually kind of a different character. She doesn't seem that impressed with Frank. She keeps telling him off when he says shitty things about Jane, about Mrs. Elton.
Instead of playing into it, which is a big part of why Knightley then gets so frustrated with Emma and upset with her, at the Box Hill scene, is because he's seeing Frank's influence on her, and that's the culmination point, where if she's calling out Frank the whole time, that doesn't make sense.
Mr. Woodhouse says to Emma, shut the door, there's a draft. It is shut.
I feel like Emma is like a much more intense version of Emma. Like, she speaks sternly. This is not the more like playful young Emma that we got to know.
And I wonder if part of that is because the actress is older.
She would be the age which I am now. And I may very well be the most childish person of my own acquaintance.
You have ADHD. That means that you delight in the ridiculous. I love that you're so comfortable being you. The Dixons want to hire Jane as opposed to being her friends. It makes sense that Emma thinks it's weird because she's like, why would the man want to hire her? Jane is a different character too. She tells Miss Bates off for sharing her personal information.
She's not as quiet of a character.
She's still quite quiet, but she stands up for herself. And at one point, Frank kind of bullies her into playing at the Coles, and she stops partway through when she's too tired and just gets up.
Dang, Jane.
And as I said, Emma's telling Frank off about being mean to Jane and making the jokes about Mr. Dixon. And it seems more serious and not teasing like the other adaptations. When Frank almost tells Emma about his relationship with Jane, he wants to apologise for lying. And I was like, finally, this is what we want to see. We want to see the Frank who is apologetic.
We want to see the Frank who feels bad about leading her along to cover his ass.
Emma kind of protects Jane. When there's the whole conversation about mail and Jane going to get mail in the rain, Mr. Elton suggests that she's got a secret admirer and that's why she's hiding her letters, and he and Mrs. Elton are kind of joking. Emma looks at Mr. Knightley to save Jane, and it's actually Emma, though, that starts a diversion. And then she personally takes Jane into the dining room. Earlier, when Jane tells her aunt off, Emma politely is like, oh, I need to be going. But yeah, Jane seems to be angry a lot. So Box Hill is not the day after the strawberries. It's the same day. They do the strawberry picking and then they go to Box Hill. Of course it was going to be a nightmare. Jane leaves in between. She doesn't go to Box Hill. So there's no reason for Frank to be flirting.
No reason for Frank to be making of himself.
Mr. Weston is lying on the grass snoring.
Love it.
Hilarious. Mr. Elton's not there, so Mrs. Elton is being looked after by Mr. Knightley, and I think she's trying to flirt with him. She's got a bug on her neck and she's trying to get him to notice and get it for her. Because Mr. Elton isn't there, she's trying to talk shit about Emma to Mr. Knightley.
Which he would not allow.
No. Emma does apologise to Miss Bates.
Nice. She says the words, I'm sorry. God, that's all I've ever wanted. These adaptations, it's always just really annoyed me that, like, she comes over and she's being apologetic in her manner, but she never says, I'm sorry.
She couldn't sleep thinking about it, and it seems like her and Jane both had that same night of not sleeping, which is a really interesting parallel. When Mr. Knightley turns up, because he's worried about her and Frank, Emma thinks that Harriet has told him about Frank. You went to see Harriet because she's your girlfriend before you came to see me, and that's how you got this information. They added a funny bit where Mr. Woodhouse is freaking out because Emma's gone outside for a walk and she's not back inside yet. It's because she's out getting engaged to Mr. Knightley. When she does come in, he puts her in his seat and he puts his blanket over her and he's like, you look after me, I look after you.
I love that. He is such a doting father. He never wants her to grow up.
Emma doesn't send Harriet away. She keeps herself away. And instead of going to London to get her tooth done, she's going to look after the Knightley kids. The last change, when they're talking to Mr. Woodhouse about Mr. Knightley coming to live with them, they say that Isabella and John are coming back from London. They're going to live at Donwell. So Mr. Knightley and Emma can live at Hartfield. I thought that was a great way to sell it to him.
Woodhouse wouldn't want Emma to leave the house, but he'd also be a bit like, if he moves in with you, it means that your daughter has a home to go back to where she can be the mistress for a while.
But I can't remember if the John Knightleys appeared at all in this.
If they did, they were in an episode I didn't watch.
If they did, they were pretty insignificant.
Got varying levels of the John Knightleys. And the Gwyneth Paltrow one showed John Knightley, but barely showed Isabella. John was a much more like funny character. You see him and he's playing around with his kids. But then you've got some where they're barely in it. You've got some where they are a bit more prevalent, like in the 2009 adaptation. And I think it's interesting just all of these different takes of the exact same story and which bits can be cut out. It makes sense in some of the movies where they've got to cut down for time. But this was a miniseries. So if the John Knightleys are barely in it, why? You guys had so much time to tell this story.
It's going to save money if you don't have as much cast or them on screen as much.
That was one of the things that we mentioned in the Kate Beckinsale TV version, is it was a much lower budget, which is why we thought they didn't cast the Knightleys as much, why they didn't have certain characters kind of appearing, or at least having speaking roles, is so that they didn't have to pay.
Bits in particular that I noted were funny. Harriet has piled up a plate of food when she first meets Emma. Emma takes it away, puts it on the table, and then goes to tell Mr. Elton that Harriet has no food to get her some.
Honestly, 10 out of 10 manipulation.
The Woodhouse is constantly trying to not let people eat. That ties in really well at the start and the end. At the end, everyone is having glasses of wine. Mr. Woodhouse is like, no, Mrs. Weston, you can't have that. And takes it off her because she's got a baby. But at the time, they wouldn't have known that you shouldn't have the alcohol. It's just him being particularly careful. Emma invites Mr. Elton to visit and then pretends to be surprised when he turns up.
So good, because she's like, oh, Mr. Elton, come over. Harriet, you're going to come over, okay, at this time. It's a really good showing of Emma's manipulation tactics.
She is an excellent manipulator. During the painting of Harriet, Emma tries to get Harriet and Mr. Elton talking to each other, and Mr. Elton asks what Harriet's reading, and Harriet's response is, "It is a book, sir." They're so awkward, and at one point, Emma asks him to go and adjust Harriet's skirt.
It just felt wrong. Wouldn't be touching a woman's skirts like that. And he's like kneeling down on... Yeah, that was weird.
It was very uncomfortable. Yeah, Emma, you're trying a little bit too hard to get them physically intimate. Towards the end, Miss Bates and the Eltons are playing cards, and Miss Bates is talking to Jane, but Jane isn't there. They're sitting around a table, and Miss Bates is talking and such Jane with the Eltons, and then the camera widens out, and you see that Jane's not there. And Miss Bates goes, "Oh, she's not here." The final scene is quite a lovely summing up scene. You've got all the couples together. And this is when Emma is talking to Frank and Mr. Knightley comes over to say, "I think we've got the wrong partners." So they swap back. At one point when Emma's having a panic, she's ranting and searching for her scissors. And Mr. Knightley's listening to all of this and then just pulls them out quite quietly from under the material that she's working with on her table. When Mrs. Elton meets Harriet, she's very dismissive of her. She offers shortbread to Emma, and Emma's like, "What about Harriet?" She's like, "Oh yeah, just go for it." And Harriet does. Harriet just sits there eating shortbread. And Mrs. Elton actually says to Jane that she has heard Emma is upset about Frank and Jane. Then Emma turns up and quietly congratulates Jane and apologises for the way that she was. She even calls her Jane as she's leaving, but then goes, "Oh, may I call you that?"
The olive branch of friendship.
Emma modelling really good consent that Mrs. Elton's not.
Mrs. Elton has no concept. She calls Jane by her name from, like, the beginning. She calls Mr. Knightley just Knightley.
I assume that's because Mr. Elton probably calls him Knightley. Men did tend to refer to each other by their surnames and often without the Mr. in front of it.
That's true.
That's not the thing that women do, Mrs. Elton. It's a little over-familiar.
We discussed Emma's potential ADHD, and there's a great scene where in the first episode she's doing embroidery and talking to Harriet, and she says something about, I have so many projects that I've been working on and just never finished. And then she brings up some embroidery. She's doing it for about, like, 10 seconds before she gets distracted by something else and puts it down. And I was like, yep.
She had a plan to embroider seat covers for the entire dining table and didn't even finish one.
I get that. Rough.
Very accurate, Emma. And the final joke is Mr. Woodhouse obviously being like, why is everybody married or getting married? Asking if Miss Bates is going to get married next.
She could find love. We can wish that for her.
And that's our discussion of the 1972 adaptation of Emma. I've been Frances Duncan. This has been Rachel Pilwell.
Bye.
Thank you for listening and happy reading.
I'm a weirdo, man.